1998 was a heck of a year in gaming if you were a PS1 owner. Everything from Xenogears to Resident Evil 2 was getting thrown your way, and there wasn't much room to breathe. When I finally got my system a year later, I remember getting a small handful of games to start with. Some like Final Fantasy VII, of course, Gex Enter the Gecko, and another little title called Blasto. I had first caught wind of this one with a trailer, actually included in a demo disc that came with my system. All I knew was that it looked fun, and I wanted it. I had some fond memories of it from back then, though I also remembered having quite a hard time with it. At the time, it had generally mixed reviews from the critics and gamers alike, making me even more curious to give this one a revisit. So, how does it hold up now? Released in 1998 by Sony Interactive Entertainment, Blasto for the PS1 is a 3D third-person shooter and platformer. Looking like a cross between Space Ghost and Johnny Bravo, Blasto is voiced by Phil Hartman, the famous comedian from Saturday Night Live, voices like Troy McClure from The Simpsons, and acting in various movies like Ted and Jingle All the Way. This would unfortunately turn out to be one of the last things Hartman worked on before his death. The game's plot is pretty straightforward. Bosk, an evil alien previously banished to what the game calls the Fifth Dimension, has planned a rebellion with other aliens to set up a base on the planet Uranus and take over the human race. Blasto is called in to defeat Bosk and his minions. Many jokes about the planet's name ensue, and you're off to go shoot things. The gameplay may be a bit confusing for those just picking it up for the first time. You use the D-pad to walk forward, turn left and right, and press the down button to step backwards. Square is your standard blaster, which you can also hold down for a charged shot. X is for jumping, triangle is used for interacting with objects and pressing buttons, and circle is your special weapon button. But what really determines your ability to play and beat this game is your use of strafing. The L2 and R2 buttons allow Blasto to strafe left and right to avoid enemy fire while you shoot back at them. The L1 button is also used for aiming more precise shots. This is absolutely crucial for getting you through each stage and major fight, as you'll have to learn early on. Outside of the shooting, there's also a lot of difficult platforming to get through, which definitely puts a player's patience to the test. Puzzle solving usually involves going from one point of the map to the other, hitting the right switch, and going through the next door or pathway that you've opened. It's not too difficult, but it does cause you to do some serious backtracking at times. The look of the game is also worth talking about, as it was clearly made to evoke sort of a Looney Tunes, Duck Dodgers in the 24th and a half century vibe, and in my opinion, it does more right than wrong with it. The characters all have very distinct movements, and clearly had a lot of thought put into them. The few boss fights that the game had still stuck with me because of this. So what issues did gamers have with this title? Well, for one thing, it is very difficult, and not for all the right reasons. Blasting and dodging actually feels great once you get the hang of it, but you will also experience many cheap deaths due to things like Blasto not connecting to a ledge when he clearly should have, or an enemy appearing directly behind you with no way of seeing it in time. While there is a helpful backflip maneuver to make you turn around quickly, it only goes so far sometimes, especially when you have no way of telling where some enemies will be coming from. Although I personally got used to this before long, Blasto does move pretty slow in general, so it may be off-putting to those who simply want to sprint through stages, especially during the segments that require backtracking. Personally, I also found myself at odds with some of the game's design choices. For a game that emphasizes the importance of strafing and dodging, they sure like to make enemies spawn right when you jump on those tiny platforms with no room for movement, unless you try to jump to another platform in which you just risk getting yourself shot at even more. And then there's the whole babes aspect. Yikes. I think it's time I go back to talking about some of the good aspects again. Although it wasn't too frequent, the game had some truly creative ways of changing up the formula. I'll use Episode 7 as an example, where you have to get past a large blue creature called the Snarf. Since he can't be defeated in this stage, you're forced to find a gun that can create more alien soldiers like the ones that you fight, and spawn one right in front of the Snarf, giving you just enough time to run past him while he devours the bait you left. I also really enjoyed using the jetpack whenever those few opportunities came. Despite the difficulty and even the cheap deaths, I never felt like the game was unbeatable by any stretch. The earlier stages are surprisingly generous with granting the player extra lives, and defeating every enemy in a stage can even land you an extra continue, which brings you back with 5 additional lives. I think of the difficulty of this game in the same way I do games like classic Mega Man, where it requires multiple attempts at playthroughs to truly master each stage and get to the end. This was no different in the sense that you begin to remember patterns and tricks that the game tries to throw at you, and then perfectly conquer a section that you were getting obliterated in hours before. This all left me feeling really accomplished by the time that the 2 final battles were over, and Bosk was defeated once and for all. Despite the heavy marketing from Sony, the game never got a sequel, which was odd considering the title card you see right after the end credits stating otherwise. I have to say, despite all of the frustrating moments, I really came around to this game, and ended up liking it quite a lot. Beating it gave me the same kind of satisfaction that you'd get from conquering your favorite classic NES title, you know, the really extremely difficult ones. The challenge in itself proved to be the real reward, and as a gamer, that was A-okay in my book. Hopefully showcasing this will inspire more people to track down a copy and give this one a look for themselves. And that's going to do it for this video. If you liked what you saw, please remember to hit like and subscribe below, and keep watching for more games, music, movies, nerd fun! And I'll see you all again. Thank you for watching.